Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen's sister-in-law tries to get rid of my cat, so I kick her out. After that, despite the will, my Aunt Karen thinks my parents' property belongs to her. And after that, you want proof that I'm actually doing my business? If you say so. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen gets kicked out. If anyone's getting kicked out, it's you, Reddit boy. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen's sister-in-law tries to get rid of my cat, so I kick her out. I, male 27, have a cat named Billy. He's my best friend and is very funny and adorable. He always makes me laugh and comforts me when I need him. My fiancée, female 26, had her pregnant sister stay with us after her boyfriend kicked her out. This cost me to work more since I pay for everything. My fiancée is currently looking for a job, but nothing was found. The problem started when her sister started complaining about Billy. She'd yell at him to get out whenever he's in the kitchen or the living room. She'd spray him with water whenever she wants him out and throw his food away. Once I saw it with my own eyes, I asked her to respect Billy as a resident of my home and to leave him alone. My fiancé said her sister never had a cat, so she doesn't know how to treat them, which is nonsense since animals just want to be left alone, but my fiancé's sister seemed to be doing it deliberately. Yesterday I came home at 6 p.m. and Billy wasn't home. I went to look for him after my fiancé's sister said he left in the morning. I finally saw my neighbor bringing him to me, saying that my fiancé's sister dropped him off near an auto repair shop far from here. I was livid. Billy was too scared he couldn't even eat. I confronted him and she lied about not going anywhere and asked my fiancé to back her up, but my fiancé refused. She then admitted it but kept excusing what she did by saying that she was just worried for her baby since cats aren't good to be around pregnant women. I blew up at her and told her to leave. My fiancé said that that's her sister and her niece/nephew and I should be more graceful. I argued with her about how Billy felt after what her sister had done, but my fiancé called me unsupportive and was overreacting and no harm in taking Billy to stay with a friend since her sister clearly is scared of him. Well, who do you agree with? OP or his fiancé and her sister? Please let us know. OP, you need to kick both of them out immediately. You better not marry her, bruh. Despite the will, Aunt Karen thinks my parents' property belongs to her. This happened almost 5 years ago, and I just got notice yesterday that my entitled Aunt Karen has passed, and I got a call from her husband asking me to attend the funeral next weekend, and I declined, as did my older brother, Mark, for purposes of this story. Karen was my mother's older sister, and she constantly interfered in my mother and her children's lives. She never liked my father and always tried to tell my mother that she made a mistake by marrying him. She didn't like the name my parents picked out for my older brother, and my great-grandmother passed the day before I was born. And when Karen found out they were going to name me after her, Karen freaked out and said she wanted to name her potential future kid that, so my mother couldn't use it. Then she tried to talk her out of it by saying it's too old-fashioned and kids would make fun of me, which they did, but for other reasons. She criticized both my brothers and my choice of friends and even complained when I started playing softball because proper ladies didn't play sports, and if her daughter ever tried playing a sport, she would have her removed from the team. Spoiler alert, she never had kids. The day after my 16th birthday, my parents drove on a business trip down to California. I live in Idaho. My dad said that when they got back, he would drive me to the DMV to get my license. He never did, because on the drive to California, they hit a patch of ice, spun out, crashed, and passed away. I was a wreck for some time after that. I didn't even want to attend my high school graduation later because my parents wouldn't be there. Their will split everything evenly between my brother and I. At the funeral, my parents, who owned their own business, production manager, Tim, was talking to my brother, and my brother told him that in a couple weeks he would step in and take over, and he was counting on Tim to run things smoothly until then and help him in taking it over and learning the ropes. I had no interest in the business other than it was a guaranteed summer job when I was growing up, so I stayed out of it and just collected profit checks until I sold my half to Mark, and he continues to run the business to this day. Mark told Tim that he should assure the employees there that their jobs were safe and that no major changes would be made. Then, one day, Aunt Karen showed up and began putting her stuff in my parents' office, and when Tim confronted her about this, she said his services were no longer needed and he was fired. Tim called Mark up, and Mark went down with the family attorney, some police, and the necessary paperwork and had her removed, while she said the place was now hers because it was her sister's, so now she was the owner. As long as I've known her, she's never had a steady job and has had 3 husbands, not counting the man who called me, never met him, and milked each one as much as she could get until she divorced him. The next day I was leaving for school. I walked, it was fairly close, about 10 minutes, and saw her car and a moving van parked outside. She said she was moving into her house, and then said in a sickly sweet voice that for a reasonable rent, she would continue to allow me to stay there until I graduated high school. I went in and called my brother, and he again showed up with a family attorney, police, and all the paperwork and had her removed from the property. I was at school, so I didn't get to see what happened, but that night, Mark gave me a business card for a policeman who I assumed helped deal with all of this, and told me that if I ever saw Aunt Karen on or near the property, to call that number and report her immediately. Don't even try to confront her or give her a warning, just call. I do know that the movers charged her to move her stuff into the van, drive across town, get turned away, and drive back across town and move her stuff back into her apartment, which she hadn't given notice yet. I got scared to the point that I didn't like letting our dog into the backyard when I was at school. I used to put her out in the yard to let her play in the fenced backyard while I was in school. For a while, I just put her in the locked and closed garage and then cleaned up her messes when I got home in the afternoon. Eventually, Karen moved to Colorado, where I assume she met and married the man who called me and said that she had passed and he couldn't find anyone from her family to attend the funeral. I chose not to tell him about her and politely said, "Sorry for your loss, but I can't make it." From discussions with Mark, he basically told him the same thing. Outside of myself, Mark, and Mark's infant daughter, I don't think she has any living relatives. I still own the house. Mark gave me his half as part of the deal where I sold him my half of the business, but still sleep in my bedroom. I refuse to move into what was once my parents' bedroom, the master bedroom. I go to the local university, go Broncos, and still miss my parents and think about them every day, even though I'm 21 in less than 2 weeks, own a large home, have a lot of money in the bank. I would trade it all to have my parents back, but I don't care about the how or why of Aunt Karen's passing. Thank you for reading, and sorry for the length. Have you ever had a relative that tried to use you? If so, what did you do about it? Please let us know. Not much anyone can use you for, Reddit boy. You want proof that I'm actually doing my business? If you say so. Background. I'm an over-the-road truck driver, and most of the time, it's more convenient for me to do my business on the highway shoulder. I don't have to drive around and around just to park to use the restroom. Just a quick 30-second emergency stop. Do my business, either on the side of the road or empty bottles that I'm saving up. Gotta do what you gotta do when you're on the road, then off driving again. I'm sure I'm not the only over-the-road truck driver who has done this. It's very common. Side note, according to FMCSA, by law, we have to carry logbooks to calculate our driving and on-duty time. This is relevant to the story. On to the story. This happened just a few hours ago somewhere in the I-40 WB in New Mexico. I was suddenly in need to relieve myself badly. So as usual, I pulled over to a clean, wide highway shoulder. Then I put my logbook to off-duty. Note, this isn't my first time today doing my business. I have a habit of being very meticulous with my driving time, which means when I'm not doing anything, even for 30 seconds, I put my time in off-duty. I tried to save as much driving time as possible. Those multiple 30 seconds can add up to a lot to avoid doing 34 hours reset too soon. I looked at the passenger side window and see multiple cars passing by. Turns out, there's a road where cars drive by on the side of the highway. Doing my business on the highway shoulder? Nope. Instead, I did the alternate route. Do it in a bottle, seal it, and stow it for trash later. Just as I finished doing my business, I heard a knock on my passenger door. Very weird, because this is the highway shoulder where no one should be randomly walking around. I stow away the bottle and go look to see who it is, and it's a cop. I was thinking, crap, this isn't happening. I switched my logbook to on-duty inspection and go answer the cop. Before I could say anything, the cop asked me to see my logbook. It's part of their job to check whether we comply to the rules or not, so I show it to him. The graph looks like a heart monitor, so I was relieving myself probably 4 or 5 times per day. Tiny bladder problem. The cop questioned why I was off duty for 30 seconds to 1 minute every 2 hours almost every day. Electronic logbook can be backtracked up to 14 days. I explained to him that I have to relieve myself every 2 hours, give or take. The cop didn't believe me and assumed that my truck had a problem. That's why I have to stop every 2 hours. I repeated myself about my bladder issue, but the cop still didn't believe me. Instead, he said, "Unless you have proof that you're actually relieving yourself, I'm afraid I have to give you a ticket for false usage of logbook." Cue malicious compliance. I told the cop to wait a moment and went back inside my cabin. I grabbed every single bottle that I'd filled today and the previous day. I haven't had the chance to throw it away. Put it in a plastic bag and for extra measure, grabbed the newest one out of the plastic bag. It was still warm. I showed the whole bag to the cop, plus the warm bottle. Told him it's the newest one I just did a few seconds ago and asked if he would like to hold it for further inspection. The cop had the mixed look of disgust and horror. He was literally gagging, so I put back the evidence inside of my truck so he could recover. Then the cop says, "I was expecting a doctor's note or something like that. What you showed me was disgusting." Me, "But you asked for proof that I was, in fact, relieving myself." I was holding back my laughter so hard that my cheek started to hurt. Then he gave me back my logbook and told me to have a good day, then drives off. Have a good day, indeed. I took an extra 1 minute on the shoulder to laugh until I was satisfied. Then I'm off to driving again. Edit. For those who asked, did I do anything on my logbook during laughter? You all have asked the most important question. Bravo. I did set it as off duty, but did not put a comment on it. I guess, in the eyes of my dispatch, it looks like I'm doing 1 minute of silence. I did get questioned by my dispatch, and after thorough explaining, he too did a 1 minute of silence. Am I the jerk for making my neighbor remove the eggs he put in my yard for an Easter egg hunt? Since Wednesday, my neighbor asked if he could hide eggs in my 28 male yard as part of an Easter egg hunt they wanted to do for the kids coming to their barbecue. Our yards are right next to each other with only the pavement dividing it and no fence, which I'm thinking about setting up after what happened. He asked 3 times, and each time I said no, because I don't like the idea of a bunch of little kids that I don't know coming into my yard. Besides, he wanted to hide most of them in my garden, and I wouldn't trust a 6-year-old not to step on my flowers or knock over a pot. He's been mad since I repeatedly said no and explained why. Their yard's just as big as mine, so I didn't see why they needed my space too. Yesterday, I was having some car trouble, so I took it to my friend who's a mechanic, not getting it back until Tuesday. So, guess because my car wasn't in my driveway, they assumed I wasn't home. Because in the morning, I'm doing work in my basement and I hear footsteps nearby. Checked my hidden security cam and I see my neighbor walking back to his house from my yard. Right away, I go outside to confront him and he looked panicked. Honestly, no idea why the heck he thought it was a good idea to do that. Like, even if I wasn't home at the time, what made him think I wouldn't get there, say, when the kids were in my yard? I was just so upset. He told me to please let them do this since the eggs were already spread out and his family was going to be home soon. At that moment, I was seriously mad. So I told him either to take all the eggs back or I'm throwing them out myself. Then he got mad and was calling me names under his breath, but he picked them up and left. I'm going out to check my yard to make sure that he got all of them, and his wife is giving me a dirty look too while he was talking to her. They had their little party and Easter egg hunt in their one yard. I was out there just now watering my plants and they were cleaning up. My neighbor was still mad at me. He told me he hopes I'm happy with what I did. Right now that I'm more calm and I'm not mad at him anymore, I'm kind of wondering if I was a jerk for making him pick up his eggs and not letting them use my yard. Honestly, I was ticked off in the moment that he went into my yard after telling him no, so I'm not sure. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his neighbor? Please let us know. I would have taken those eggs and put something horrible inside of them. Karen, how could you say something like that? What? I just mean something no one likes, like Tootsie Rolls. That's a boy's name. Hello, my wonderful front desk agents and front desk enthusiasts. This happened to me just yesterday at the brand new hotel I'm working at. To start, I'll give a bit of context. I'm a female with what I've been told is a boy's name. Let's just say it's Sky. The issue is I've literally never met or even heard of someone that has the same name as me. I'll also mention that I'm working at a hotel located in a city dominated by another brand. We also just opened a few months ago, so often when people stay with us, they tend to compare us to the other brand. It was around 2 hours into my shift when the phone rang. Me. Hello, thank you for calling the fancy hotel brand. My name is Sky. How may I help you? Karen. Hi, are you actually at the front desk? Because I want to speak to someone on property. Me, slightly surprised at her bluntness. Yes, ma'am, I'm here in the city. How can I help you? I wanted to book a reservation for my son and daughter-in-law tonight. Me, okay, absolutely, no problem. Were you looking to book just for the night? Karen, yes. You see, I just want to hear your prices. I usually stay with your competitor, but I didn't like the front desk person's attitude, so I'm looking for a new hotel. Maybe you guys might be it. Me, okay, well, let's see what we've got here. Were you looking for just a king bed for tonight? Of course, they're married. They're not going to sleep on separate beds. Me, okay, I was just checking. It looks like that will be this amount for a king bed just for the night. That does not include breakfast. Okay, can I just give you the card number to have him check in? Me, actually, it's company policy to fill out a credit card authorization form in order for us to use the card for someone other than the listed cardholder. If you give me a good email address, I can send it to you. No, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. Me, at a complete loss at this point. Well, it's company policy, and I unfortunately can't run your card for another guest without the form or your signature. Can I come in and then book a reservation? Me, yes. As long as we're able to swipe your card and have you sign for the room, we don't need the form. Great, then I'll be in. Me, perfect. If you come in before 3 p.m., I'll be the one you're dealing with. Great. What was your name? Sky, S-K-Y, and I work at the front desk. Wait, Sky? Not Skylar? Me, that's correct. How do you spell that? S-K-Y, like Skylar without the L-E-R. And you're a girl? Me, now annoyed and confused about why that matters. Yes, ma'am, I am. But that's a boy's name, and you're spelling it wrong. Me, I'll be sure to let my parents know. Have a nice day. Am I the jerk for talking to my parents about getting a lock to keep my brother and his wife from going in my room without permission? So for a little context, I, 21, female, am still having to live at home with my parents due to lockdown messing up my plans for moving out. My parents are happy to still have me at their home, and I'm okay living with them until I can earn enough money to move out. One of my brothers, 26, male, and his wife, 26, female, tend to visit us a lot, which I don't mind. I enjoy seeing my brother. I love him very dearly, and his wife is a really sweet lady who we all get along with very well. However, my brother has a tendency to just walk into my room, whether I'm in there or not. He did this before to pet our older cat, who tended to spend most of her time in my room, and I know he loved the cat, but I also did not appreciate him just barging in without warning. He stopped doing this for a while when our old cat passed away. She will forever be missed. But I recently got 2 new kittens from a rescue because I felt like I needed a new cat to help me heal from the loss of my old cat. It has been amazing, but now my brother's tendency of barging in has gotten worse than it was before. I have repeatedly asked him not to barge in, and that if he wants to enter my room, he needs to ask for permission first and respect my answer if I tell him no. He always says sure or okay, but it's clearly in a very dismissive way. His wife will always follow him after getting an ice cream bar from our freezer and just sit on my bed with him, eating. It's been 6 months of this routine by now, and I'm sick of it. My room is my space to be on my own and recharge and for privacy, and they continually disrespect that. I got fed up this weekend when I was trying to get ready for a date with my boyfriend, and they just barged into my room to pet the kittens who were in there with me. I asked him to please leave and that I was trying to get ready, and he said that since I am putting makeup on in the bathroom, why don't I just change in there too, and that he wants to pet the kittens. I gave up, got ready in the bathroom, and once I got home, I talked to my mother about getting a lock or something to put on my door so that they won't just go in, sit on my bed, and eat without my permission anymore. My brother heard about this because my dad, bless his heart, but he is oblivious sometimes, saw no issue saying we were going out to look for a lock when my brother asked if we were home. Brother is now saying that I'm just overreacting, that I have the kittens in there a lot of the time. They hate being away from me, so they usually follow me in there to sit on my bed and watch me as I'm doing anything in there, and he just wants to pet them. He says I'm being cruel to him and the kittens by not letting him in to pet them whenever he wants, and by apparently depriving the kittens of attention and interaction with people. I'm just so sick of him and his wife barging in, but now I'm starting to wonder, am I overreacting over this by looking at getting a lock to keep them out? Also, the sister-in-law never is the one who barges in. She usually just follows after brother a few minutes after he barges in himself. Well, what do you think? Is OP overreacting about getting a lock or not? Please let us know. That brother needs to learn some manners. You don't just barge into your sister's room like that. Clearly shopping at PetSmart, I'm not wearing even similar colors. I'd never heard of this sub before now, but about 2 months ago, I went into PetSmart for dog food, crickets, and a tank thermometer for my boyfriend's gecko. I had just grabbed some freeze-dried worms since they were out of small crickets, but it seemed unlikely to the worker that large crickets would have been fine for some reason. Anyways, I'm walking down the aisle and this older lady and what seemed like maybe her older son, or maybe it was a different type of relationship, but it seemed as though it could only be family, came up to me and said, "Excuse me, do you know where the fishnets are?" Now, I understand that by answering her, I may have led on that I did work there, but I couldn't ignore her because I knew the general area, so I said, "I think in the next aisle." She thanked me and left to the other aisle. I was picking out a thermometer that wasn't going to break the bank, and I was walking towards the dog food, but kind of taking my sweet time as I was enjoying the time alone. She stopped me before I could get to the dog food section and said, "They're not here. Where are they?" in a snappy tone. I'm somewhat of an easily irritated person, but I was trying to calm down because she probably thought I worked there for a crazy reason. So I said, I'm not really sure. You can ask that employee," and I pointed out the guy who was adamant on freeze-dried worms for me. She turned back around and said, "I asked you. I want to speak to a manager." When she said that, I actually felt something snap a little because I don't go out of my way to be nice to people ever. I'm only ever civil and blunt. So because this was a wasted rare occurrence, I just said, "Well, I don't know where it is, but maybe if you actually ask someone who works here, you'd be able to figure it out. Or you can open your eyes in the fish section." I stuttered a little bit on the word fish, and that bummed me out, but I walked away quickly, irritated and hoping I didn't see her again. Not super exciting, but it was one of the better moments of being assertive. After years of retail, my normal response would have been to be polite, but I'm through with retail forever if I can help it. By the way, the PetSmart uniform is khakis and a royal blue t-shirt. I was wearing a black tank top and jeans with a black bomber's jacket on. Not even close. Forward the complaint to the owner? Okay, no problem. My wife used to be an apartment manager for 190-unit complex. It was a live-in situation, so we didn't have to pay utilities or rent. We did, however, have to deal with residents knocking on our door all day and sometimes night, despite having clear office hours of 10 to 6. We had a weekend manager who had no authority but could show apartments and help with lockouts. The owner of the complex was a dishonest ex-con, and to this day, I have no idea how he got the money to build the complex. This guy was notorious for squeezing every penny out of residents that he could. When signing the lease, it was clearly explained by my wife that everything must be taken from the apartments when residents moved out. There was a strict $100 charge for all larger items that were not removed, things like beds, furniture, televisions, etc. This would all come out of the deposit made at the time of signing. When residents told my wife they were moving, she would again remind them to remove everything from the apartment or they would not receive their full deposit. One resident who had moved out over the weekend and had a conversation with the weekend manager. Again, the weekend manager had no authority. This resident stated that the weekend manager said it was okay to leave a few items and that someone would come claim the items as their own and that the items would be gone before final checks. When my wife went to go look over the vacated apartment, she found a TV stand, and a desk. She then checked with the weekend manager who said they never told the prior resident they could leave items behind. My wife had maintenance come and dispose of the 3 large items, but rather than charge the typical $300, she only charged $100. My wife then called the prior resident, explaining that they had left a few items, but only $100 would come out of their $700 deposit. The prior residents were furious with my wife and aggressively claimed that weekend managers said it was okay to leave items. My wife explained over and over that the policy is to have everything gone and that she was actually saving them $200. The prior residents were having none of it and would call over and over, yelling at my wife to fix it. The prior residents demanded that this be escalated to the owner. So my wife forwarded the emails from the prior residents and explained that they had been charged $100. The owner read the emails and thought my wife had mistakenly charged $100 instead of $300. The owner then told my wife to withhold $300 from the $700 instead of the prior $100 charge, and the check went out to the prior residents for $400. The prior residents threatened to sue and still called for a while, but after a while they gave up and moved on. Sometimes people should just accept kind gestures rather than throw a temper tantrum. Can't wait for me to test a lawnmower? Help yourself. Grabbed a broken lawnmower from outside of someone's house this morning and was reminded of this story. I'm part of a group who keep a community garden and help local people get into gardening too. We let people know we will take any old tools and equipment, as we can often repair, restore, or just sharpen stuff and it's as good as new. And we just give it back or away in exchange for a small donation. It's not uncommon to see mowers, trimmers, etc. outside of houses in the summer for the scrap man, and we always snag them. Easily 75% of the electrical stuff we get, maybe even as much as 90%, just needs a fuse or a new plug and it's good to go. You leave electrical gear in a damp garage all winter and it'll need some attention, but people just chunk it out. So a few years ago, I'm working on the garden and hear someone say, Hey, excuse me, someone said I can get a mower here? This is already a bad start. We're British, for crying out loud. What's happened to please and thank you and sorry? It was a guy who looked like what I can only describe as a big posh sod, and as I started into my normal spiel about welcome to our garden, he cut me off and asked where he could get a lawnmower, as someone said he could get a free one here. No problem. Maybe he's some weirdo who doesn't want to hear about how the broad beans are doing well this year. We actually had 2 lawnmowers that had been dropped off that weekend, a little hover mower that I had already fixed, rewired plug, and a massive overworked model with adjustable cutting lengths, automatic compressing grass box, etc. I hadn't touched it because 1, they're massively complicated, and 2, they're expensive, so no one gives them to us unless they're completely out of warranty. I told the guy he could take the small one, but the other one was probably broken, but he looked it up on his phone and decided he wanted it. He tried it, it started, he took it, done. Glad to see the back of it. An hour later my phone rings. Hi, I got your number from your website. I picked up a lawnmower about an hour ago, but it only runs for a few minutes and cuts out. Can I bring it back? Sorry mate, I literally just got rid of a broken one of those. I really don't want another. Sorry, I can't help. Click. Am I the jerk for not letting my in-laws see their grandson again? So when I was 20, I found out I was pregnant and was living with an unstable family member. So 3 months before I had my baby, I moved in with my partner and his family. The plan was to live there for a year to save, and when the baby was around 10 months old, get our own place. So my son was born in April, and my in-laws became very controlling and tried to act like his parents, such as they are renovating the house and said on top of our rent, we have to each do 4 full days of work while they take care of the baby. They wouldn't listen to any of our parenting decisions and kept having people over during lockdown to meet him when I wasn't even letting my parents meet him due to trying to keep him safe from getting sick. Now, about a week ago, my partner spent the day doing the renovations and they asked him to hose down the driveway when he was done. Fine, he did it for 3 hours and came in to spend time with our baby after working 6 days and doing work on the house with every spare minute after, so he had hardly seen our son in a week. Now his mom came in and said he didn't do a good enough job and had him keep going. He said no, he wanted to be with his son and it was dark. He'd finish tomorrow. His mom went crazy and kicked us out at 8 p.m. Said she'd call the cops if we didn't go, and we didn't get back the rent we paid 2 days before. Okay, we leave and have been living in a hotel while we look for a rental. Also, I live in Victoria, Australia, where we are in a hard lockdown and have around 500 new cases every day. The state is being very strict and things aren't going well here. She's now sending me messages saying to leave her son and come back to live with her with my baby, saying we don't have to pay rent anymore if I leave him. She'll take care of us. She misses her grandchild, etc. I'm so angry that she made my family, let alone my 3-month-old son, homeless during such a risky time, or at all to be honest, and she thinks we're living in the car, not a hotel. I'm angry she's trying to get me to leave her son, who I love and have a child with. I'm ready to block her and her husband and not let them be in our lives anymore. They threw us out, and even though my son is too young to know what's going on, he's been very unsettled being in a new place and not having any of his things. It's been hard on him and made us feel like bad parents. I don't think she deserves to be in our lives, but I do believe my son deserves to know his family and have grandparents. So, would I be the jerk if I took that away from him after what they have done to us? Edit. To answer a common question, yes, it was illegal for her to kick us out, but my partner works a job that pays cash, so our rent was paid in cash and we didn't have a signed agreement, meaning we can't prove we paid rent and therefore prove that it was illegal. Please do us a huge favor and come watch this video next. You're not gonna believe what happens in it. And want us to make a special video reading your script for you? Just come visit us on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below. And why not join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video.